I'm going to be sharing my screen here just, I guess, before we start. This is a webinar. Definitely am planning on sharing with you a lot of the stuff that I go through with my clients to help them grow their business on LinkedIn. But it's not like, I don't feel like I'm like a college professor giving a course where you guys have to like sit quietly and take notes. Happy for anyone that has questions on anything I'm saying or something isn't clear, or you want to know, kind of a twist on it or application on it, feel free to either just like raise your hand or talk up, or put it in the chat section, and I will be more than happy to, address anything. Please do not feel bad asking, jumping on any of that stuff. So with no further ado, let's jump into this. So, okay, so this is the goal of this thing. I'll appreciate a lot of you did put down on the registration form different things you wanted out of this, what you were looking for, a common thing. And I think in the end of the day, what everyone really wants out of LinkedIn is meaningful connections that lead to brand recognition, that lead to more leads and more business, right? We're not here we're not in the business of getting likes and getting engagement. We're in the business of helping people out and growing our businesses. So that definitely was the common theme. And part of that really is a big picture goal. What I do with my clients is a long-term game. We're trying to build up a reputation, build up an authority in our industry to present ourselves as the go-to person for that question. So as you guess, the kind of the starting point question for all this is like, okay, so like, where do I begin? What exactly is LinkedIn? What are my goals on LinkedIn? Just really like everything about it. Like, what do we do? How do we get started? And how do we take from that to get to the point of, we got this, we can handle this. We don't really, no issues at all. Let's go for it. So that's what I want to cover. I want you to walk out of this today. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to put everything into an hour of what you do over many weeks with clients, but the outline and the general concept is going to be everything I do exactly with my clients. If you spend the time, it takes time to do these things properly, but if you spend the time to do this, you will have the tools to be able to really find clients, grow your business, and develop brand reputation through the information presented today, I hope, and would love your feedback on all of that. So let's begin. So the general outline of everything in life really is, I always like to tell a story. It's kind of a dumb story, but it's kind of always stuck with me. As my older brother, I used to be studying the same school as him in Israel, and when we learned together, he once walked into my kind of like on my study session, and he saw me going like this. I was like scribbling all over the place with an eraser. And he looked at me and he said, you're going to like run out your eraser, the whole thing in like 3 seconds. If you just kind of like put the point on where the pencil is and you move it around, you'll just erase exactly what you need and your eraser will last a lot longer. So I know I'm sounding ancient talking about pencils and erasers, but his concept was he took out his pencil from his pocket and he basically had an entire eraser on top of it still. And I took mine out and I had about half of mine left. And his concept was, and this is something that I don't know why, it's just always stuck with me, is when we do things intentionally, we could be precise with them and we could be intentional with them, and we'll get a lot more accomplished without burning through our whole eraser, right? Without destroying, having, whatever those shreddings of eraser all over the place. We'll just have a neat, job of what we need to get done. So it's the same thing with LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and you could jump on your feed and you could just kind of be like all over the place. It's like you're taking your eraser and you're trying to erase, but rather than going over the outlines of where your pencil is, you're just like going back and forth over the entire paper and you're just shooting in the dark. You're just kind of wasting your time trying to hope some of it goes over where the pencil is located. And what ends up happening when you do that is you burn yourself out. You burn out through the process and you end up destroying half of that eraser in that time. Whereas if we're intentional about what are we doing on this platform, how are we getting business on this platform, who are we serving on this platform, what's the best way to use it, we could be so much more productive and we won't burn out. We'll be able to have all of that eraser still remaining at the end. So with that said, my outline of what I want to cover and kind of just to set it up front, what we're going to do on this webinar is as follows. We're going to start with what I coin the essential elements of LinkedIn. There's 3 different parts, how they interact, a very basic overview of the 3 essential parts of LinkedIn and how they all kind of mesh together. After that, I want to discuss a very basic marketing strategy that every business is going to have to go through this on some level or another. You're for sure already doing this, at least subconsciously, but we'll work through it in a conscious space where we'll ask questions explicitly to really, really learn how to do this. We'll then take that marketing strategy and personalize it. Each person can kind of think. We're not going to be able to go through all of the details exactly, an hour together with each person on here, but you'll be able to personalize it to your business through questions that I'll bring up. And then we're going to take that concept, that marketing strategy that's relevant to our business, and I want to apply that back to the essential elements of LinkedIn and see how we can use that strategy to go forward and use it and be successful in building our brand and finding clients on LinkedIn. So that's really the basic overview of what we're going to accomplish in the next 45 minutes, basically. Again, at any time, I'll pause a few times in the middle for questions, but anytime it comes up, you can feel free to just raise your hand option or to throw it out in the chat, and happy to take questions anytime. Okay, good till now? Any questions? Okay, so let's jump in. So what are the essential elements of LinkedIn? So in my mind, there's really what I coined the 3 pillars of LinkedIn. There's 3 different parts of LinkedIn, and each one of them has a very defined role. And when the 3 of these parts all come together, that's when you really have the magic of LinkedIn. So let's go through each of these parts. The first part is your profile page. On the end goal of basically everything that we do on LinkedIn is to get people to visit our profile page. People will tell you, you have the dopamine rush of lots of likes, lots of engagement. When posts go viral, it does not always translate into a lot of profile views. It just means they resonated, so a lot of people hit liked. The only way to get to your profile is if somebody clicks on your name, right? Your post can show up in someone's feed because a common connection liked it or a common connection commented on it. But the only way to get to your profile page is you were intriguing enough that somebody decided, I want to go click on this person and learn more about them. So when someone's on your profile page already, that is powerful because that means that they want to learn more about you. That's why they're there. So when they're on this page, this is your golden opportunity to sell yourself and sell this person's here because they want to know about me. What do I want to be telling them about what I can offer, about how I can help them, about what I do? So again, being intentional with these things will allow us to utilize it in the greatest way possible. And we'll get back to, after we go through kind of the basic marketing strategy, how to apply that to your profile. But just in terms of the significance of your profile is, first of all, that's really your landing page. It's your sales page. It's where all leads kind of go through. Before anyone reaches out to you through a DM or through booking a call or whatever they're doing to you to grow your business on LinkedIn, they're going to go through the medium of your landing page, of your sales page, which is your profile page. Another important kind of side topic, but it's important to know on LinkedIn, is you could turn this off if you want, but the default is that your landing page is searchable by Google. So like if you would search right now, Moshe Siegel, LinkedIn consultant, the first thing that would come up actually is my LinkedIn page. And maybe I should get a website, it's probably true, but I don't have one right now. And the first thing that will pop up, even on a Google search, so if someone remembers my name, but they don't know exactly who I am, and they will put me in a Google search, my personal profile page is going to be the top search result for that. So you want that when they get to your profile page, that they're not clicking on a blank page without any real information. Again, they're trying to find you. You want to turn your profile page into a sales page that they can know exactly how you're going to help them, how you're going to solve their issues through building out properly your profile page. That's part number 1. Second building block, essential element of LinkedIn is your content, right? So there are, I don't know, everyone always throws out these stats. I don't know where these stats come from. 99% of LinkedIn users will never post and only 1% post. And I think many of us that have gotten leads through LinkedIn recognize that most leads are not people that are commenting with us every day and are engaging with us every day. So where do those people find us? How do they get to me when I've never interacted with that person before they DM me and said, hey, I see you, LinkedIn consultant, I'm looking for that. Can we set up a call or something like that? How do they find me? So there's a few ways. One of the main ways is your content. Now, I always view a little bit, the way I say it is like your content is your stage. It's like your keynote address. Your content is just you sharing your ideas with everyone else. Your interaction, your relationship building, we'll get to that in the third one. That's more part of the engagement strategy. But in terms of content, that's really where you share yourself, your solutions you provide, your business, your values, everything you want to share about yourself. is coming and expressing itself through your content. So imagine if you were giving a keynote address in your industry, what would you be talking about on the most basic level, right? That's kind of who would come to that address. So that's your content. Your content is your platform. It's your stage to share your ideas, specifically business and industry related, with your audience. The last part of it is engagement. In other words, that happens either through comments on your own post, or through comments on other people's posts, or through interactions in the DMs, through the messenger part of the app, right? Because what happens here is this is where all of the actual networking and relationship building happens. If you walk in and you're the keynote speaker, and you walk in, you didn't say hi to anyone, you didn't talk to anyone, you got up on stage, you gave your speech, you walked out, you went back to your limo, your chauffeur drove you away, you didn't meet a single person at the address. Maybe you inspire them. If you're really, really incredible, maybe someone will buy a product from you if they're so inspired. But in general, no one really connects to you exclusively through your content. Your content is just one part of that. But the way that the relationships are really developed and the way that relationships really happen is through the engagement. And that engagement is going to happen on your own content. Once you post, that's your speech. But now you got to engage in the comment section to actually be interacting and talking to people. That's where you actually can, hey, this is interesting. The way I've experienced is X. And you respond to that with, yeah, that's a really great addition point. And you respond with Y. Now you're actually sharing ideas with each other rather than just getting up and giving a keynote address. Now you're actually interacting. And that's just as powerful, if not more powerful, on somebody else's engagement, somebody else's post, as much as it is on your own post. So these three parts, again, your profile page, which is where everything is getting to, through your content, which is you sharing your values, your business, your solution with your audience, and then your engagement, which is basically relationship building. So you're sharing your ideas, you're building relationships, which all lead you to your profile page. When all of these are targeted to who we're trying to talk to, then your content will resonate with your audience. You'll have quality conversations within people that are relevant to your industry, to your field, which will get those people to be the ones that are checking out your profile page, which will eventually turn into brand recognition, lead generation, and all of these things. So these are really the three essential elements of LinkedIn. I call the three pillars of LinkedIn, which is kind of the visual here. And when all three of these are all focused, like we said in the beginning, when we approach it with an intention, and we're doing this in a way where all of these things are part of a very precise, direct, intentional goal, that's where all of the magic happens. So those are the three parts. Now we're going to go into that and let's see how we can take these elements, apply them, learn basic marketing strategy, and then come back to this. So before I go further, I just want to know, are there any questions on any of these three parts? Anything I said so far, feel free to speak up or post it in the chat. Any questions?
I have a question. Hi,
Please.
I'm Daniela. Thank you so much for putting this together. So you mentioned something about not really being active content-wise, and then just kind of, it's like coming on, giving a keynote and walking away, and you're not really creating content. Let's say you're a world-renowned recruiter. So I use LinkedIn like a recruiter. I source talent. So if I were to have recommendations on my LinkedIn profile that say Daniela's a top recruiter, Daniela helped me find a job, you know, all different people, and I'm not generating content, is that a way of generating content? Where would that sit in your pillars?
Great question. Great question. So in terms of the direct answer to the question is where recommendations comes in and why recommendations are important. And I hope to get to that if we get there at the end of today, is it's the greatest form of social proof. Because part of when you build out your profile page, and this is where the last part that we'll get to in today's thing, but just a quick kind of intro to that, is your profile page, like we mentioned, is your sales page, it's your landing page. So I could talk myself up as much as I want about how awesome I am, how great I am, and how you should give me tens of thousands of dollars, and how you should trust me with your business. But in the end of the day, it's just me. It's just me talking, right? So depending on how, maybe I'm very convincing, maybe I'm good copy, or got someone good to write my profile page for me, but it's limited to your trust in me and our relationship. Recommendations, I can't create a recommendation from someone else. Someone else writes a recommendation, puts it on my profile page. You are able to not display it. If somebody wrote a recommendation, that you don't like, you can choose to not display it on your page, but you can't edit it and you can't write it. Whatever that person puts on your page, they wrote that and they provided that to you. So that's really the greatest social proof you can have, is when someone checks out your profile page, say, hey, she has 30 people that have all worked with her and say she was super helpful with XYZ. That's great. And it's very valuable. But again, that's only going to be once they're already on your profile page and checking you out. So part of the bigger picture strategy, and where content would come into this, unless you're doing a lot of more cold outreach, which definitely has a very big role in LinkedIn. It's not my personal focus so much here. Kind of what I'm building is more brand building and developing inbound lead generation, demand generation. But where that does come in, and content comes in, is getting people to get to your profile. So the recommendation section is huge on the social proof element of your profile page. But the first step is, how am I getting people to my profile page? So I would say, if you're not producing content, another really valuable way to do that is the engagement. Because when you go comment on other people's posts, so I tell people that think it's too busy, it's too hard for me to produce content. So don't produce content. Go find people that are in the niche you want to be talking in, and figure out who are the big names on LinkedIn in that niche, and go get yourself involved in the conversations that are going on the content they're creating, because that's going to be where you're building the relationships. The relationships come from the comment section, not from the content. The content is more just building yourself as an authority. But if in your industry you feel like, hey, I don't need to be an authority, I'm recruiting, the way I work is more outbound, I would say, great. So forget it. Don't do that. But just make sure you still have some way that you're getting people to come to your profile page to check that all out, which is where the other pieces kind of all fit together in those three parts. Great question. Any other questions before we go on? Okay, so let's go forward here with the basic LinkedIn strategy. So I call this LinkedIn strategy, but that's probably really the wrong word. The right word for this would probably really just be marketing strategy. It's not really LinkedIn based. This is just very, very basic marketing strategy. And if we look at this Venn diagram, it kind of brings out the basic concept, which is, on one side in the dark blue, we have your ideal client avatar, which we'll discuss each of these in specifics in a second. This is just the outline. We'll go through all of these. I'll show you exactly what I do. So your ideal client avatar is kind of who you are trying to attract in the most specific, precise, exact way. So who is my ideal client? Who do I want to be working with? Which is not necessarily who we're working with now. But again, we're not trying to just use LinkedIn to repeat what we're doing now. We're trying to use LinkedIn to get us and our business to where we want to get to. So who do I want to be working with? Who is my ideal client? And I'll help you figure out how to do that in a second. And then on the other side, which you have the, I guess, turquoise side of it over here, is your unique story and solution. So you have who is your ideal client, then you have who am I, right? What's my unique story? A lot of people, especially people like I'm assuming many in this room, are small business owners who kind of started their own, their own business or their own freelancing company. And a lot of times the way you got into the field that you're in has a story. And it has part of what, a lot of times we went through our own struggle to get there, and it was something meaningful to you, and it pushed you in this direction when you found that solution and you're passionate about sharing it with others. Even if it's not that extreme, there's something about the process of how you developed in your industry that's unique to you. Everyone has that. Everyone has their own origin story. And part of that you also have is your unique solution to that, right? What am I providing? My ideal client has certain issues they have. There's certain pain points that we'll discuss. Who am I? What do I have? What's unique about me that I'm able to solve their issues that distinguishes me from everybody else who's also claiming to solve their issues? How can I help them based on my past, based on my story, based on who I am? Now, when you take these two parts of the Venn diagram, you take your ideal client and you take your story and you find the overlap. Where are my solutions? Where is my past, my history? Where does that overlap with where my client's struggling? How can I help them? How can I genuinely be in their struggle with them, show them I understand, and be a light for them to get out of it? I also didn't have a job once, so I went into recruiting, if that's true, obviously only, right? Whatever the story is going to be, you can empathize with them, you can work with them, you can grow with them. And that's really where the LinkedIn magic happens. When you find that overlap of your story and how that overlaps with your ideal client avatar. So for the next little bit, I want to go through these two parts. I want to show you how to create an ideal client avatar and show you how to document your unique story and solution, and show you how to create this magic of LinkedIn. So starting off with understanding your ideal client, right? So you want to create an ideal client avatar. The most basic thing you need to do is research, right? You have to figure out, what do my customers want? What do my customers need? I'll tell you, I personally do this. I have a Google Doc, and whenever anyone asks me a question, not even clients, whenever anyone reaches out to me and asks me a question, think we have Isaac on the chat here. He, texted me yesterday, a quick question about posting carousels, right? So even if he's not a client, if somebody's reaching out to me and asking me a question on LinkedIn, that's something important for me to know. That means someone's struggling with answering this question in my field. So I want to document that, and I want to make a list. Every time this happens, I have a Google Doc, and I'm keeping records of what are people asking me. That means that these are struggles they're going through. Now, are they all becoming clients? No. But are they all industry-related questions? Yes. The reason they're asking me these questions is because when they're thinking of a LinkedIn consultant, this is information that they want to reach out to know about. So if you start, again, like we said in the beginning, be intentional. You have to start learning your customers. If you want to go back and look through your texts and your emails and stuff and start seeing what people have asked you, sure, the more time you want to invest in understanding your customers, the better it will be. But I would suggest, if you don't have the time to invest in that, at least going forward, just start keeping it in mind as you're having discussions with clients. I tell this to all my clients, start a Google Doc and just start writing down what questions they're asking you. Because again, like when we talk about that overlap of your expertise with their struggles, people are giving you the knowledge to know what these are. If we just take the time to remember them, document them, and think about them. So that's a super helpful tip. Again, if you want to go back and do it, that's great. I'm sure you probably have a ton of emails and texts that have this information in it already. But at the very least, just start, I don't know, you could do it on Notion, you could do it in Google Doc, you could do it on your phone, you could do it on a pen and paper. However you like to keep notes down, start documenting what do people ask me when they reach out, whether they're clients or not. And this is going to be very helpful when you try to A, create content, B, try to figure out who exactly your ideal client is. So I want to now go into understanding really who your ideal client is. One of the questions somebody asked me in the intake form was, how much information should you share for free? Which I think is a great question. And I think this is going to answer it. I'll be honest, I debated back and forth a lot in setting this up of how much should I share from what I do with my clients. It took me a while to set all these things up, figure out my processes. I'm always improving them, working on them. Do I really want to just go share this with everyone? And in the end, I am. What I'm about to share with you is literally my exact spreadsheet. And I'll go a step further even, and I'll tell you all right now, everyone that's on this webinar, I am offering, at the end of this, I'll send you a kind of a survey afterwards. Again, for myself to gain information. I would love to hear from you. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Did you find it helpful? Did you not? What part of it was helpful for you? It'll probably take you 3-4 minutes to fill it out. Anyone that fills that out, I will be happy to share with you this exact thing that I'm showing you, which is the spreadsheet that I fill out with my clients to help them learn out who their client avatar is. And the question that you asked was, is it worth giving away all the stuff for free? This is why people are paying you. So my answer to that is that for sure in this part of LinkedIn, when we're trying to build ourselves as a real brand, trying to build up who are you, you need to give away value for people to realize, hey, he actually has value. And I'll tell you, I'll even send this to probably, let's say, I don't know how many people we have on this. Let's say I don't even know, I can't see that right now. But let's say we have 15 people, 20 people here, and let's say 10 of them fill it out, or 10 of them fill out the survey and I send them this spreadsheet. How many of those 10 will actually spend the time working through it with themselves in a deep way, figuring it out? So I hope you all do, honestly. I really do hope that you all do. But a lot of time, knowledge is not the same as execution. And execution is a lot harder than knowledge is by itself. And by you giving away value, you're never going to replace somebody that can directly apply it to someone and help them out with it and guide them through that process. So my opinion is, if it doesn't hurt you giving it away, then it's not really valuable enough. So it should it should hurt you a little bit. This is something that I worked on, I developed. I'm happy to share it. It shows that if you find it valuable, that means that now I'm establishing myself as someone that provides value. And same with you. And the only way to do that is by sharing real value. And I don't believe that the sacrifice you lose by that will be better or will be worse than what you'll gain by building your brand and showing people, hey, here's something that I have to offer you. So that's the answer to that question. Obviously, if you spent years developing an app and you have a monetization process of charging $50 for it, you can't give it away for free. Obviously, there's a certain place for this, but as a general process, you want to be giving people things that to associate yourself with real value, which is how you build up your brand. It will never replace, especially if you're in somewhat of a coaching business or somewhere in a business where it really needs to be personalized. It's very hard for people to really do all that effort on themselves without having somebody help them along in that process. So with that said, anyone who fills out that survey, I'm happy to send that to you. And I hope that you don't need me to fill it out. You guys should all do it on your own. And if you do, it will be very valuable. Going forward, how do we understand our ideal clients? There's really two parts to it. The first part is what I call demographic, and the second part is a psychographic. So if I want to understand my ideal client, my goal in this, in understanding my ideal client, is not just to create a general demographic, but it's to create an actual specific person that I'm thinking of. And for me, what I find helpful is to actually give this person a name. Like we'll name a person, like what's an ideal person, not a real name of a client of yours, but we'll make up a name. I don't know, Mike Johnson, or if you're targeting a certain foreign demographic, someone that has a name from that country, whatever it is you're targeting, think of a name of someone that sounds like somebody you would be targeting. In that, how old is it? What age range? Now, don't just say he's 45 to 50. No. We're creating a real person. Obviously, you're not going to only work with this exact person, but our goal is to create an actual person that when I say this name, when I tell you Mike Jones, that means something in your head. You understand who Mike Jones is, that if I were to tell you, explain to Mike Jones the importance, let's say I'm seeing Rosalie's name now, the importance of good nutrition or of a balanced approach to nutrition. So now you're not just writing a generic post about, how to approach nutrition, but you have a person you're thinking of in your mind who you've worked through, like we'll see in a second, a lot about this person. And the more real they are, the more real you can really understand and direct it to them. If you want to go as far, there's some fun websites to play around with, like this is not a real person, or this person does not exist.com, where it's just like a random face generator, and you can find a face that matches it if you want. That's just the shtick of it. But the main point is trying to really understand who is this person. So let's go through this quickly. We want to know their name, how old they are, give us, again, be as specific as possible. He's 37. Occupation, what's his field? What does he do? Not just he's in high tech, but he is a manager at a Fortune 500 company, as specific as possible. Location, where is he based? Is he in the fast-paced New York lifestyle? Is he in more of the relaxed, California personality? Let's try to really understand who is this person. Marital status, kids, does he have a wife? Does he have kids? These are part of showing where he is in life. Income also, not that he's making over 250K. It's an exact amount with bonuses and other things. If he has a side hustle, he does some consulting on the side, put that in there. Try to make this as real of a person as you can for whoever your ideal client is. Again, just to repeat this, ideal client isn't someone you necessarily even have.
Rooting for you.
It could be based off someone you have, it could not. But the main thing is it's who you want to be working with. Thinking through who you work with currently might help you figure that out, but it's not limited to that. That's part A. Part B, and this is where the real magic happens, is the psychographic. It's not just what does he look like, how old is he, how much money is he making, but it's what are his values, what does he think, what is he struggling with, what does he need from me? So if we go through this, step number one, what are his sources of information? So if you're dealing with a 20-year-old, it's probably going to be much more TikTok and certain, social medias like that. You go a little older, maybe it'll be Twitter. You go older, maybe it'll be the Wall Street Journal. Maybe it'll be Fox. Maybe it'll be CNN. Where is this person sourcing their information? How does he think? Where does he view life? A lot of times you could share an article, let's say, that's interesting to you. You'll find that exact same concept on every single news site, whatever your political belief is and whatever you associate with. But if your ideal client demographic is on one side of the spectrum and you know who they are, so share something with that person that will resonate, rather than sharing something that that person will automatically get their blood boiling just by seeing the name of the opposing news station, right? Meaning the more we understand who they are, where they're getting their information from, how they think, the better we'll understand them. What are their values, right? Are their values based on trust? Are they based on family? Are they based on freedom? Are they just looking to make money? What are the values of this person? And then here's where the most crucial part really starts. So the next place we fill out is struggle and pain points. And you can have, I personally try to put it with my clients, at least 3 in this cell here of the spreadsheet. what are their pain points? What's hurting them right now? And what are the solutions that they need? The next level question on top of that is the next one is, what do they really want, right? So looking at, let's just say, because Rosalie, Rosalie, you do nutrition and diet recommendations, so right, kind of lifestyle stuff, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just use you as an example because you're right under me on this screen. So somebody says, what do I want? So they might tell you, I want to lose weight. You look at that list, that Google Doc you want, tell you I want to lose weight. They'll tell you, I want to start exercising, I keep falling off, I want to eat healthy. Those are all what their pain points are, perhaps. But if I ask you, what do they really want? So that might be a totally different question. What do they really want? They want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel energized during the day and not feel dragged down. They don't really care about what they look like. That's just a symptom of what their struggle is, of kind of what's been hurting them, and the way that they perceive themselves internally, or whatever those cases are going to be in your industry. I'm sure Rosalie can answer that question a lot better than I'm struggling here. But when you think in your industry, which you're the expert in and you know well, a lot of times you'll be able to pinpoint, it's the pain point they're expressing is where they see their struggle, but where that's coming from is really from a deeper point of what they really need to solve. And when you're aware of what they really need to solve, so then it's not just that they need more money in their business and I can coach them to make more money. It's that they need less stress in their life because they're getting stressed out between all the time they're investing in their business and being able to be present for their family or whatever it's going to be, right? So then even though they'll tell you my business is not running well and I need to make more money in it for it to work, that might not really be what they need. They might really need better processes that allow for more time freedom or whatever that's going to be for them. So the first level is, what are they asking you? What are their pain points? And then go through each of their pain points and try to place, what do they really want? Where is that really coming from? And how, and what's the underlying issue for that question? After that, you go to the next place on here, and that is, so what solution do you provide? How are you going to help them? What are you going to give them? And how is that going to solve their issue? What are the results and benefit of your solution? Right now, you're going to solve X by A. You're going to lose weight. What are the results of losing weight? Which is really the parallel of what they really want, right? That's kind of the solution is kind of the answer to the pain point, and the result and benefit is kind of solving what they really wanted in the first place. And then what are the common objections? So using our example, a common objection would be, I've done 100 of these weight loss programs before. I've dieted my whole life and it's never worked. And then what is your response to their objections, which is really the same as how is your solution unique from others on the market, which is basically, how are you answering objections? They know, they've heard of people that help them with diet before, and they've maybe done that a few times before. How are you going to respond to that when they say that? What's unique about you that you're going to say, I know you've said that before. Here's what I do different. Here's what sets me apart from others that are in it. So if you take the time, and I think this is like the most basic elementary thing you need for your marketing, this will be super essential if you actually invest the time for this. Go through this and try to really fill in all these things. Try to understand who exactly it is. You put this all together with my clients. I often actually type this up into a few paragraphs afterwards, and we come with a description of who our ideal client is. And when you get this super, super clear, that's going to be an essential point in approaching them and trying to figure out how to properly reach those people. After any questions on this, on understanding your ideal client? See a few things in the chat here. Let me open this up. Where do we get the profile from you for help us with the client avatar? Okay, so to Eliezer, I'm going to send you out after this meeting is over a survey, just basic what you enjoyed, what you liked, how I could improve. Anyone that fills it out and gives that back in, I will send them a copy of this too. Can you have more than one psychographic? So in general, you could have more than one client avatar. That's actually why I do this on a spreadsheet, is because you could add another one afterwards. You could have more than one client avatar. When you get too all over the place and too distracted, that will be negative to you. But it's nothing wrong with having, let's say, one or two, but you don't want to start having, 20 client avatars. You want to really try fine tuning it. Who is my ideal client and how can I target them? In terms of psychographics, yeah, within the cells, like I mentioned, what are their pain points for sure? Everyone is struggling. Every of your client, it's generally not just one issue they're having. It's a conglomerate of multiple things that all kind of have underlying commonalities, but there are definitely more than one thing. And the more you put down there, the more you'll get into the head of that ideal client, the better off you'll be. Do you find that picking one blocks out others? So we'll get to this a little bit more in the profile section if we have time to get there today. I don't really find that picking one blocks out others. There's really two parts to this, which is really what you're asking, I think, is should we be niching down so much and talking only to our ideal client? Like everyone, I personally, my biggest struggle in life is not obesity, but could I have better nutrition and feel better? Sure. Now, if you're targeting people that are overweight to lose on it, are you going to be losing out on the Moshe Siegels of the world? The answer to that question is somewhat of a double-edged sword. The answer to that question is there's a difference between the real answer to the question. Let's just kind of two steps to this. The first answer to the question is you need to stand out why I'm going to reach you out. So let's say I have on my feed, I could tell you 5 different people that are all offering weight loss programs and health programs. So what's going to make me personally reach out to any one of those 5 over any of the other ones of those 5? So if all of them are marketing themselves as I help, overweight people get back into shape. So there's nothing that stands out about each of them. If one of them markets themselves as I help busy businessmen and fathers who have no extra time in their life get into shape, that will very much resonate with me personally a lot more than the other 4. You'll stand out to your ideal client. In general, there are enough ideal clients in the world that unless you're being so super niche down that there aren't enough of those that exist, in general, you'll be better off with that because they'll actually reach out to you. If not, you're just kind of leaving yourself in the open, and most likely somebody else who is more niche down and is more specific will end up getting those clients. They won't come to you when you're generic because you're just kind of the same as everyone else. But when you kind of can label your superpower and label what's special about you and how you have your unique solution to this specific demographic, that tends to be better. Something that's important to keep in mind is where you apply this. We're going to apply how much you niche down differently. We mentioned in the beginning, there are these 3 building blocks, these 3 elements of LinkedIn. We have your profile, your content, and your engagement. It's going to express itself a little bit differently how much you're focused on what in the different parts of LinkedIn. So we'll have to get back to that in a second and talk about those specific points. But yeah, excellent question. Okay, so once we've got our ideal client, we have that all figured out. So the next part is, like we mentioned before, owning your story. Who am I? What brought me here? How did I get to this place? Right? So a lot of times your story will resonate. I'm looking at my screen now. I see Shua Dring on the screen here. Just asked the last question. Shout out, how are you? So Shua used to be a CPA and he switched into financial services, right? And part of that was figuring out his personal meaning in life, work-life balance, where he wanted to be, being happy in life. That connects to being in financial services and helping people use their money, right? You have the ability to connect your story with what you're building out, with what your story is. So the more you get clear on your story, which overlaps with your solution, the more you'll be able to do that. So my second tab on my spreadsheet is, the first tab is defining and creating an ideal client avatar. The second one is my story. Who am I? Who's Moshe Siegel? Who's Shua Dring? Who's Eliezer Blatt? Who's anyone else on this? Who are we? So you don't need to document your age and your income. You probably know all that about yourself already. So I kind of skip the demographic part when we're talking about ourselves, and we focus more on our psychographic part, which is, what do I want to be known for? Specifically in my industry, you can be broad if you want, but specifically in my industry. Do I want to be known as a LinkedIn ghostwriter? Do I want to be known as a LinkedIn consultant, as a coach? Do I want to be known as a copywriter? Do I want to be known as someone you can run business ideas past? What do I personally want my reputation to ideally get to? There's a lot of variation in this. And then the next question is, where do I want to be in 5 years, right? Do I want to be doing what I'm doing now? Am I trying to grow into something else? And this should have, you have to align with your ideal client avatar, because if you're doing X now and you want to get to Y, so you're gonna have to find, where does my story, like we mentioned, overlap with my avatar? These are gonna all come together to produce that. So where do I want to be in 5 years? What are my greatest skills in my field? This is you asking that yourself. What do you feel like are your greatest skills? The next question is, what do others say are my superpowers? So the easiest way, again, to figure this out is ask people. Ask people who you work with, who are your clients, and say, hey, I'm just curious, like, what do you find? I'm trying to get insight to improve my business processes. What do you find is what I excel at? What am I great at? Obviously, say not in a bragging way, but in a humble way, just trying to learn more. Would you mind giving me feedback? What part of my program do you like best? What part of my personality you think helps you in this process more than just reading articles on Google or watching videos on YouTube? What do others say are your superpower? And then back to your origin story. So what was the struggle that pushed you to build your business? If you're an employee of a business that put you where you are, what kind of pushed you to get into the field or industry you're in? Why did you go there? What made you get there? And then what was life like before you got there? When you were kind of debating, you were probably an ex and you said, I really want to go do my own thing. I want to go be a nutrition coach. I want to be a public speaking coach. I want to be a financial advisor. I want to be a PEO advisor. Anything you want to be. Before you kind of took that jump and did it, what was your life like? Like, what was your struggle like in that moment? Be real with yourself. What was the catalyst for the change? How'd you actually pull the trigger? How'd you go? Why did you switch? Why did you go do your own thing? Where did that take you to? Define that process. And then where are you now? What is life like now? Especially if you went into a business that you're now sharing, like if you had your own financial struggle or nutrition struggle or public speaking struggle, and you had to learn a lot to really become a master at these things, that process is really powerful. You're really in it with those other people and sharing your journey of that and expressing how those things went and pinpointing what were your emotions of struggle and what are your emotions now that you're out of it are really, really powerful tools to knowing yourself and knowing how to market yourself, knowing the tools you bring, the superpowers you have. Everyone has their unique story, their unique questions, and how to kind of branch that out into the world. So we look at some of the questions we have here in the chat on that. Anyone else that has anything, feel free to join in. Thank you, Eliezer, appreciate that. Okay, good, Jessica, good luck. Are you able to send us these graphics? So yeah, so both parts, I assume you're referring to not my joking memes in the beginning, but the spreadsheet things. So both of those are part of that spreadsheet. I'm going to share that spreadsheet with anyone that fills that out. And it has two tabs. You'll see one tab is going to be my client tab. Another tab is going to be my story tab. I personally, a lot of my clients have more tabs. I add on another tab after that with content ideas and more tabs. I kind of have it all on the spreadsheet where I'll keep adding more and more stuff there. So I would suggest the same to you. When I share it with you, you should download it or upload it and make a copy on your own. So it's not based on my Google Drive. In case for some reason that would ever get deleted, you want to make sure you have that copy by yourself. I would ask that you don't spread it out beyond you. Happy to share with everyone here, but I have at this point so far have not made this a public thing, but I'm happy to share it with all of you. And I would suggest also, yeah, use those other tabs, kind of keep this, make this be your LinkedIn strategy Google sheet where you keep content ideas and other stuff that's all added on to that tab. How often should you refer to your journey? Is it a one-time post? So that is great. Great question by Elisheva here. Did I skip a question here first? 1 second, I skipped one. At one point, do you coordinate your internet presence with a website? Right now, I use a branded blog. I haven't set up a webinar or anything interactive. Chatbot, I also... Yeah, so that's kind of a bigger marketing question, which is kind of combining all of your various social media or online presence together. You could have a website, you could have all of these things are part of a bigger discussion. Anyone that I'm not able to answer this on this webinar is welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn or directly, and happy to work through some of these concepts with you. The answer to the question is yes, it's definitely all part of a bigger system, but I know for myself and for many others that through LinkedIn alone, if you set yourself up as a brand and work and spend the time putting it in on that, you are able to build a business through here. And it's a great step. If you have more, if you want to have a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel, an email newsletter, a website, all these things are great and they will all feed off each other and help each other. But honestly, what I'm focused on here is just LinkedIn. And that is a huge piece of it that really could build the business itself. How often should you refer to your journey as a one-time post? So that really gets more into content. So kind of what I mentioned in all of this is we're going to have to take this as the marketing 101 and apply this to our LinkedIn elements, which is what we'll kind of have to get to. Each one of these, applying each one to its element is really its own topic. It's really its own discussion of how do we properly apply the client story, my story, and put that into my profile. How do I combine my client struggles, my story, put that into my content? How do I apply that into my engagement based on who I'm engaging with, how I'm finding them, how often I'm engaging them? So the answer to your question is yes, it could come. I mean, it's not like It's part of a bigger picture discussion, but it definitely should be a part of your content strategy, and it should be a part of it. I think it's not just saying the story. When I talk about your journey, it's not just writing out the story that you had and the journey you had, but your journey is also like the emotions. If you can remember your struggle you had in that, knowing those emotions and being able to write a post about those emotions, even though you're not explicitly talking about your story, is a way of using your story. It's a way of you getting the struggle of your clients and applying that to it. So in terms of the actual story itself, yeah, you could sprinkle that in here and there. I don't think you're posting every week the same story you had. It's not like that, it's not like a 50 chapter book on it, but keeping that in mind as you're posting is going to create this connection to your clients as you go through it all. Okay. We have another 10 minutes here. So let's now go. We got owning your story. So back to where we started here of our LinkedIn strategy, right? So that was kind of how I approach with my clients. You have your ideal client avatar on one side again. That's what we set up. So you really spend time on this, go through it. You want to ask clients about it. You want to start keeping track of notes on these things. Again, it doesn't have to be all in one night. Just get the ball rolling, start working on this and figure these things out. For the record, I want to add in also, I'm focused on LinkedIn. The goal of my clients that I'm working on is generally LinkedIn, but this is a marketing strategy 101. This is nothing to do with LinkedIn. When you do make that website, like you asked about, this is going to be very helpful for you to produce your copy for your website. This is what's going to help you know who I'm targeting, how I'm targeting, what my solution is for that. The information contained in this sheet is a lot more powerful than just LinkedIn. This is marketing basics and super, super important for this stuff. But at the same time, I'm just using it here to apply it to LinkedIn. So again, we have on this left side, your ideal client avatar, what we discussed, where you could say Mike Jones. And when I say that name to you, that triggers just like when I tell you your spouse's name or your good friend's name. And when I ask you, how would you apply nutrition to your spouse? Everyone here could probably already think of something relevant to discuss with someone they know so well, or your best friend or whatever it is. It'll be easy for you to apply something to that person because you really know them well. Even if it's a new concept you don't know well, you could still engage in a conversation about it because you know that person. So you want to create this ideal client avatar that you really know who that person is. And then you want to just clarify to yourself what this story is, what your solution is. How are you going to do this? Where is your unique selling point that you can say, I get you, I understand you. And then again, that middle area is your magic sauce. So to come back now, like we said in the beginning of the webinar, we started off speaking about the general 3 building blocks of LinkedIn. And then we talked about basic building blocks of marketing. Now let's take these basic building blocks of marketing. We have this Venn diagram. We know our ideal client. We know our own story. How would we apply this? What does this express itself as in each of the elements? So obviously, this is like, in general, takes weeks to really go through all of the details and all of these things. We'll talk broadly. We'll go through all 3 of these. Then I will ask for questions if anyone has any questions, and we'll call it a day. So profile page. So I think Shul mentioned this earlier, which was, the concept of niching down and speaking to a very specific client avatar versus talking to a broader audience. So there's a big difference in here between your profile page and your content strategy. People that are on your profile page are, like we mentioned in the beginning, are there because they want to learn about you, right? You don't have to, you're not trying to prove to them that they should come check you out. You're not trying to cast a wide net on them. You're trying to sell to them. They're already, they got there. They're already on your profile page. That means that they were curious enough to learn more about you. So naturally, the way you're going to interact with somebody that comes over to you and says, hey, tell me more about what you do, is going to be different than when you're just kind of walking into a networking event, schmoozing with people and talking to people. You're going to be much more broad when you're just networking, talking. Even if you're giving a keynote address, your keynote address is going to be much more broad, talk to a wider audience than somebody who's a client walking into you and saying, okay, let's talk about my business together, right? It's going to be naturally broader. So on your profile is where it's most essential to really talk to your ideal client and explain how you're going to solve their unique solutions, because that's where you already have potential clients coming to you and basically asking you, what can you do for me? And they're already at your doorstep asking you that. So you want that when someone comes to your profile, they can extremely easily tell very quickly how you are going to help them, how you can solve your issue. So the three main parts of your profile, and there's a lot more, and this is really often like a full hour I do with my clients, but the three main parts are your banner that you have when you enter. LinkedIn gives you a very generic blue banner, which just you can go on canva.com and it's a free, set up a free account, type into the templates there, LinkedIn banner, and you can find one of hundreds of free LinkedIn banner templates and just put onto that something about your business. Try to go back to your spreadsheet, see what is my unique solution, what's a pain point that my client has, what exactly do I want to say? And this is like your billboard. The first thing when you're driving down a highway and you see a billboard, so that is really when someone comes to your profile page, they see this big image across the top of the screen. So what are you telling them? What would your billboard say? Think of it as a billboard and decide, what do I want to put on my billboard? That's part number one. Just something to keep in mind with that is it does lay differently on mobile and desktop. On mobile, the profile picture overlaps with it kind of centered, whereas on desktop, it's more on the bottom left. So depending on where you put words on that, keep in mind that people are using both platforms when they're checking out your profile. So kind of just be conscious of that. That is really the banner image. After that, you have your headline, or sometimes called tagline. LinkedIn calls it a headline. And that is the word just below your name. The significance of this is that it shows up everywhere you are on LinkedIn. So every time you comment on a post, if you pay attention, you'll notice that it doesn't just say Moshe Siegel on my little picture by my comment, but it has the first, depending, it's a little bit longer on desktop also than mobile, and I'll have around the first 8 to 10 words of my headline. So it'll say underneath it, helping people get their message out on LinkedIn, whatever I wrote for it, right? So that's an opportunity that when I'm going on somebody else's post, I'm commenting on a different person's post, I basically have 8 to 10 words to tell people about myself, even when they're not on my profile page. So if I just write business owner there, or I just write CEO or marketing officer, I'm wasting that space. I'm not really telling anybody anything about me, and that's popping up every single place that I comment. So you don't want to waste that opportunity. So that's number one in your headline. And make sure that it's not too long to get that message out, or else they still won't get that when you comment. Because if it's too long, if I help very busy people with, you haven't said anything yet, and that's basically 85% of what they're going to see when they see your name. So keep both of those points in mind when you're creating your headline. Another important part of your headline is it is one of the key places LinkedIn looks during LinkedIn searches. So if somebody puts in LinkedIn consulting, the keywords that I include in my headline is part of the algorithm when LinkedIn decides what results to show. So you do also want to write these, so to speak, like vague terms if you want to put in CEO or business owner or something like that, because if you want to be found in search results for that, it is good to include that. What I personally recommend my clients is make the first part of your headline be more about what you do, because that's what people are seeing all across LinkedIn when you're commenting and stuff. Also include after that, some kind of separator, the general, your title and your field and other kind of keywords that you want people to be able to find you for if they're searching. The last part about it is your about section, really your about section and kind of your experience section. So there's two parts, the way I view it. I view your about section as basically parallel to your experience. The best usage for your about section is to basically write a summary of that overlap of the Venn diagram. You want to basically create the overlap of your client solutions, show how you understand your client's pain points, show how you understand your client's pain points, show how you can solve their pain points, share a little bit maybe of how your journey led you to these solutions, distinguish yourself from other solutions perhaps that are already there. Basically, the LinkedIn magic of the middle of that Venn diagram, that should be your about section. When someone reads it, it's your sales copy. Someone's reading it and saying, oh, this is my ideal client is reading this, thinking to themselves, this person totally understands what I'm going through and can help me. Now you'll say, but I also want to show what I can do. And I want to write that I spent 10 years doing X and I studied here Y. You can include all those. I put those all in the experience section. So under my experience section, I have my top one of my experience, my most recent one is LinkedIn consultant, coach, ghostwriter. If you look in there, I'll tell you what I do. and it'll describe, that'll be about me. That'll tell you what I'm doing and what I offer and my services and stuff. That's going to all be in my experience section. And if you are watching my profile carefully, you'll see that I have pretty detailed on that in some parts of it, because I do want to say that. But the about section is really the first place clients read, and that's where they're going to really get their feel for you and try to understand you. So you want that to be more client centric, more kind of focusing on helping them, their pain points, your solution, and how you're going to help them on that. So those are really the three main elements of your profile. I'll just end off here. This is kind of the end of it by just saying content is broader. Content is going to have to be, you're talking to your ideal client, but you're talking much broader, more in a lot of times more in the field of your ideal client, just to kind of get you need reach to get people to come to your profile page. So where your profile page is going to be much more niched, your content is going to be a combination of broad in that industry, so that you could tap into connections and using their connections to connect to their connections, so that your reach can go a little further out. If it's too over niched, it's going to be harder for people to engage. But it's a balance between that and showing your very niche expertise to get people to reach out to you. So it kind of has both of those elements involved in a more broad sense. And then engagement as well. So you want to be targeting people that are engaging with people that A, are your ideal client, and B, are in industries that your ideal client is in. Because when you start engaging on content from people that are in the same field as you, or not as you, as your ideal client, that will get eyeballs on you with your headline underneath that, and you become valuable. And if they'll end up commenting on one of your comments on that person's post, that can make it on the algorithm more likely they'll see your next post. All these things kind of build yourself up in that. So keep that in mind also. Don't just go to your feed and engage on random stuff that shows up. Start figuring out who to want to comment on. You can go to that person's profile, click the bell, get notified when that person posts, and be intentional again with who you're engaging with, how you're engaging, to kind of build out this strategy. So that's honestly, that's really my more or less, I go through a lot more in detail, and more or less my entire strategy that I go through with clients. If you do take the time to do this, if anyone wants to use me, help you go through that. I do this with clients, I do this all the time. But you can honestly really do this all by yourself. It's all there. I'm going to send out a follow-up survey to everyone some point in time today once that's finalized. If anyone does, fill that out, I am more than happy to send you this as a token of appreciation. And anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. Let's look here in the last stuff here. Okay, that's a specific question. Michelle, let's reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's try to talk about this more in depth, I think, but that's very specific. Let's keep it a little more broad here that's relevant to everyone. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Elisheva. Okay, great. Thank you, Eliezer. Okay, any other questions anyone wants to ask before we go? All right, thank you all so much for joining. Anyone who has any more questions, please, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just send me a DM and happy to help out with anything. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.